This spring and summer 2019, prepare yourselves for an onslaught of stories about the many Boston Mass luminaries, innovators, change agents, trailblazers, pioneers, and legends whose successes we've celebrated but haven't received their due like the ones in other cities have. This is the Boston Legends Podcast, hosted by me, Dart Adams.
Yo, what up? This is Dart Adams, and this is yet another episode of the Boston Legends Podcast. If you're wondering what the Boston Legends Podcast is, basically what this is it's a showcase, and it's an opportunity for us to have the opportunity to tell the stories about Boston sports, especially basketball, that have gone untold. And there are just a lot of people who have stories and legends that just haven't been, distributed to the wider audience. We talk about them all the time, whether it be on the stoop, in the barbershop, the basketball courts, what have you, but y'all don't know the stories. So one of the people that fills every requirement for being a Boston legend is right here. That man's name is Wayne Turner. What up?
How you doing, man? Thanks for having me on the show.
There's no way we could do the show without having you on here. So one thing that people need to understand about Boston, and especially Boston basketball, is you can't tell the story of the glory of Boston basketball and its influence without talking about Mission Hill. So could you please tell us about Mission Hill and its role in Boston basketball?
That's a good question. Growing up in Mission Hill's it's just a basketball mecca, always has been. Being in the middle of Roxbury, obviously, it's surrounded by a lot of, other good neighborhoods who've produced some, good basketball players as well. But as a kid, I didn't know the history of Mission Hill basketball. I kind of started learning, as I gotten older, and I didn't even realize Jimmy Walker was one of the, when he lived in Massachusetts, grew up in Mission Hill, to start his basketball career, which is amazing to me because I would hear his name a lot. I got some comparisons to him when I was in school, and guys like Butch Wade.
Yes.
I didn't know. He was from Mission Hill, and guys like Ron Jackson. Grew up in Mission Hill. These all top high level players who kind of go under the radar because they didn't reach it as much to the NBA like Ron Jackson, and he didn't reach his NBA potential like he should have, and a few other guys who I've known growing up was just basketball playground legends in Mission Hill, and it was just one of them places you couldn't live without at least having some type of game. You had to be able to hoop.
Yeah, the crazy thing about Mission Hill is that when we talk about the great basketball players from Boston, you could make a team of people from every neighborhood and make one team from Mission Hill and have them go at each other. It's that serious. It's insane. Right. So let's talk about your beginnings in basketball. How were you introduced to the game, and how did you first begin actually playing?
Well, I was introduced by my cousin Calvin, who's a playground legend in Mission Hill. Mm-hmm. He's the one that started me out. He started at a real young age, probably at like 5 or 6. And when I turned 6, we're 2 years apart. He was actually 8 and I was 6. And he joined the league in the Mission Hill Recreation Center, which is now the Thomas Johnson Center. Thomas Johnson was someone who ran the gym. And, that was inside the neighborhood I was growing up in. So, all the opportunities and, chances to play sports was, in that recreation center. And he brought me down there one day, and, I picked up the basketball, and I was like, wow. And I recognized how much, recognition and, kind of like a name he made for himself playing ball in that center. And I wanted to be like him. So, I followed him and joined the team there, and years went on. I was 8 years old. I started on my first basketball team, and we came in first. I didn't get that much burn. I was a bench. I rode the bench because I had to learn. It was 13 and under. But from that time on with that league, is where, I've started to understand, okay, hey, I could be a professional basketball player if I work hard at it.
All right. So, you played BABC?
I did play with BABC, yeah.
All right. So before that, you played with the BNBL.
Yes, I played BNBL, yes.
Starting what year?
I started BNBL, playing BNBL. I actually started playing in Brighton. Mission Hill wasn't even my first team.
Wow.
But that's how good our neighborhood was. So, they only had 15 and under and 19 and under at the time. It wasn't 16 and under and, 14 and under, stuff like that. It was just 19 and 16. So, 19 and 15. So our 15 and under team, Dana Rice, Jay Blaylock, Charlie Pina.
Oh my God.
They had,
That's
they
killers.
just had a squad, and they would go head to head with the Titans. But so I had to venture out and find a team, at the age of 12.
Wow.
So I ventured out to Brighton and discovered, because I went to the Thomas Edison out there. So I had a lot of Brighton friends, and they invited us out there to play on the BNBL team, and we didn't make it out the region, but that was my first experience with BNBL. And then when I turned 13, I played with the Mission Hill team. All those guys had graduated to 19 and under. So, in 1985, I want to say. No, not in 1985. I want to say 1987 or 8 is when we won the 15 and under BNBL championship. And man, I love BNBL. I think there was a lot of players in BNBL who, man, it was probably one of the funnest leagues that I played in the summer. Because you knew every game you was gonna have to play hard to win that game.
Yeah. And everybody's watching from the side.
Absolutely.
Talking. And it's in its 50th year, which is amazing. It's the longest running municipal league, continuously running municipal league in the country. And
Wow.
a lot of people don't really understand that and know that. So, all right. How did you end up at Beaver Country Day School is a question.
Well, I ended up at Beaver Country Day School. I actually was scouted at the time, without even knowing I was being scouted, but it just so happened, guy by the name of Al Rule Sr., was, helping kids, better their education, but also, trading it for the, the athleticism they had as well. There was some independent private schools that were looking for kids to, help better the athletic program, and Beaver was one of those schools that were doing it at the time. And I met, who's my, I call him my brother now, my god brother, Shalom Rule. He's known as Shalom Rule. Coaches for the Boston Spartans right now. They actually just got that championship win out in Vegas. But me and him ran into each other at Dana Barrow's camp. And, that's when, he discovered, maybe I was someone that could help, the Beaver program. And, from then on, I actually transferred from the Edison midway through to Beaver Country Day and started in 8th grade.
Okay.
And played JV actually in the 8th grade. Because the middle school, I don't think it was going to be challenging enough. So that's how I ended up, going there. And it was, man, I still think to this day it was just a blessing. I got lucky. I was one of the lucky ones.
Beaver Country Day is a 7 through 12 school?
It's 6 through 12, as far as I know. When I went there, it was 6 through 12. So you start in the 6th grade, all the way through high school.
That's bananas. All right, so something like those of us that grew up in the city and are familiar with Boston North, Boston South, and maybe some of the Catholic League, we have no idea about the competition level of the EIL where you played, the Eastern Independent League.
Yep.
What was the competition level like playing in that league?
Well, honestly, you know what? And this is a part that I kind of didn't really like because we got criticized, for the competition in the league.
You can't control who's in the league.
Exactly, and it was weak. I would say that. It wasn't strong. Schools weren't doing what we were doing just quite as yet. Not in the EIL division anyway. Schools so we would play ISL teams as well. They were more of a challenging competitive league than the EIL.
They did more recruiting.
Was what it sounded like. A lot of my friends, even who I played AAU, would be at schools like Rivers, Antoine James. He went to school there, and so